By episode 5, we're already halfway through Dexter Ressurection, and there have been a lot of deaths and murders already. Harrison has killed Ryan Foster, Dexter has killed Lowell, and I reckon that there are going to be a lot more deaths and murders as we approach the climax of the series. The show is really ramping up the violence with both father and son getting their hands dirty, and with Angel Batista closing in, Leon Prater's operations unraveling, and all these serial killers running around New York, it feels like we're building towards something much bigger and bloodier in the back half of the season. In this video, I'm going to be speculating about every Dexter Ressurection character who might die by the end of the season, and we're gonna start things off with the obvious. Among the remaining members of Leon Prater's serial killer network, Garrett, Al Jolly, and Mia LaPierre are all equally likely candidates for Dexter's next kill, though I think the writers will only have him eliminate one of them since killing all three would be way too predictable. My guess is Dexter will strategically remove whichever one poses the biggest immediate threat to his cover, then leave the others alive to maintain his position within the organization. Following his elimination of Lowell and successful framing of Mia for Ryan Foster's murder, Dexter has demonstrated his willingness to selectively remove threats while maintaining his cover as Red. But the question remains, which of these three represents the most pressing danger to his infiltration of this unprecedented serial killer community? The situation is complicated by the fact that each member brings different advantages and risks to the table, making it a strategic chess game where one wrong move could expose his entire operation. Each of these three poses a different type of threat to Dexter's cover. Garrett's suspicious nature and constant surveillance makes him dangerous because he's clearly studying Red's behavior patterns and looking for inconsistencies. Al's genuine personality and family connections present a different kind of risk. His transparent nature and extensive social network could accidentally expose gaps in Red's fabricated history. Even in prison, Mia remains a wild card who could cooperate with law enforcement and reveal what she learned about Dexter's true capabilities during their brief romantic relationship, especially if prosecutors offer her a deal in exchange for information about other active serial killers. I think Garrett will probably be next to go, though I'm not entirely sure how it will play out. Based on David Dastmalchian's prominence as an actor and his increased presence in episode teasers, it seems like the Gemini killer is being set up for a bigger role in the story rather than just being background scenery. My guess is that his methodical nature and intense focus on Red will eventually force a direct confrontation with Dexter, who will have to eliminate him purely for survival rather than following any code. This confrontation might happen when Garrett finally pieces together enough evidence to confirm his suspicions, or when he decides to test Red in some way that threatens to expose the deception. The key thing about the show is that Dexter has to juggle three major elements: following his code, not arousing suspicion in this new serial killer network by killing everyone, and hiding his true identity as the Bay Harbor Butcher. He's the new guy in this group, so he can't afford to have too many members disappearing or it'll point directly back to him. He's not killing these people because they fit his usual criteria. He's doing it purely for survival because they threaten to expose his infiltration of Prater's network. The writers are definitely going to do something with this three-way tension, creating situations where Dexter's moral code conflicts with his survival instincts. I think it's going to end up with one of those three dead, probably Garrett based on the setup, though I'm not exactly sure how they'll execute it without making it too obvious that the new member is systematically eliminating potential threats. Let me know if you have any ideas. And whilst you're doing that, I want to ask you all to check out my official account on X and Instagram and see how many followers we can grow it to. The next person I have in this video is Charlie, and her role as Leon Prater's ruthless enforcer puts her directly in Dexter's crosshairs. As a former special ops operative, she's got the skills and training to potentially uncover Red's true identity, and her unwavering loyalty to Prater makes her both a formidable threat and an inevitable target that Dexter will probably have to eliminate. Charlie's background as Prater's head of security makes her uniquely qualified to uncover deception within his organization. Her special operations training gives her investigative skills that rival law enforcement, and she's already proven her ability to track down serial killers for Prater's gatherings. I think the writers are probably building towards Dexter's identity as the Bay Harbor Butcher being revealed at some point, and when Charlie inevitably starts investigating Lowell's disappearance, she'll likely be the one to piece it together. Her military training and investigative skills make her the most capable of connecting the dots between Red and Dexter Morgan. Once she discovers the truth, she'll definitely end up in Dexter's crosshairs because she becomes an existential threat to his survival. My guess is that Charlie won't just confront him directly, she'll probably try to set up some kind of tactical operation to take him down, which could lead to one of the most intense fight scenes we've seen in the series. Unlike most of Dexter's previous opponents, Charlie actually has legitimate combat training that could match his skills, so it'll probably be a much closer fight than usual. But then again, what happened the last time someone with military training confronted Dexter? Of course, I'm talking about Dokes. If Charlie does get killed, I think he'll create a domino effect that starts bringing down Predator's whole operation. She seems to be the security backbone keeping everything together. So without her protection, the other serial killers will probably start getting paranoid and losing faith in Predator's ability to keep them safe. Her death could be the catalyst that triggers the collapse of an entire network, and that could be very interesting for the series. This brings me nicely onto the next person I have in this video, but before I do that, it's just a friendly reminder to subscribe to the channel. Leon Prater seems like the most likely candidate to end up on Dexter's table eventually, since every season of Dexter typically has that big confrontation between Dexter and the main villain. Think Arthur Mitchell, Miguel Prado, or the Ice Truck Killer. Prater's basically the only character who really fits that season antagonist role right now. What can make Prater a target is that he's not just collecting serial killer memorabilia, he's actively financing and enabling multiple killers, which might fit Dexter's code since he's basically complicit in all their murders. Plus, his obsessive knowledge of cases where Dexter was involved, including owning Dexter's actual blood slide box, suggests that the writers might be setting up some kind of recognition scene. I think there's a good chance Prater will eventually figure out that Red is actually the Bay Harbor Butcher, assuming he doesn't already know, whether through his own research or maybe external pressure from Angel Batista's investigation. If and when that happens, his narcissistic personality can make him feel personally betrayed by the deception, which might be what triggers the final confrontation between them. Although I've got no idea how he'd react, comment down below if you want a what if video on that idea. Now, I'm not really sure how this would play out though. Maybe Prater tries to have Charlie take out Dexter first, or perhaps he attempts to expose him to law enforcement. But given the show's typical structure, there's a decent chance that Prater could end up on Dexter's table by the season finale, with Dexter probably justifying it by explaining how enabling serial killers makes him just as guilty as the killers themselves. This is where the video gets good, because Angel Batista is the first person in this video who doesn't fit the code. If Dexter kills him, it won't be because Batista deserves to die according to the code, but purely because he was getting too close to the truth and threatens Dexter's survival. Batista's investigation stems from guilt over his ex-wife Maria LaGuerta's theories about Dexter being the Bay Harbor Butcher, theories that ultimately led to her death in season 7. Following Angela Bishop's revelation at the end of New Blood that Dexter was alive and was indeed the infamous serial killer, Batista had traveled to New York with renewed determination to uncover the truth. His position as captain of Miami Metro Homicide Division gives him both the authority and resources to build a comprehensive case against Dexter. The franchise established a clear precedent. James Dokes suspected Dexter's true nature and died when he got too close to the truth, and LaGuerta followed the same path with identical results. Now Batista is exhibiting this exact same investigative behavior, even recruiting Masuka and Quinn to assist in his pursuit. His hospital confrontation with Dexter revealed his unwavering suspicion, prompting Dexter to flee rather than face continued questioning. The tension is only going to escalate as Batista begins working with NYPD detectives, systematically building evidence that could finally expose the Bay Harbor Butcher. I think the climatic confrontation could happen in episode 8 or episode 9, when Batista might finally get irrefutable proof of Dexter's identity. Following the established pattern, he'll probably seek a private moment with Dexter, not for arrest, but for closure and confirmation, similar to LaGuerta's final confrontation. However, unlike his previous victims who died through elaborate rituals, Dexter might be forced to kill Batista in a moment of desperate self-preservation, probably something swift and brutal like a knife to the heart or strangulation. I think Batista's death could create immediate chaos within both Miami Metro and the NYPD investigation. Dexter would probably try to stage the scene to look like an accident or a confrontation with another suspect, but the rushed nature of the kill might leave evidence behind. The twist could be that Batista already shared his findings with Masuka and Quinn, so his investigation survives his death. This would transform what seems like a victory for Dexter even into a more dangerous situation, as the surviving investigators would be armed with Batista's evidence and motivated by personal vengeance. But if Dexter does kill Batista, then I think that Dexter will end up dead as well. Now, this might be crazy, so hear me out. Dexter Morgan might be facing his most inevitable fate in Dexter Ressurection, as the sins of his past could finally be catching up with him in a scenario that would probably mirror the tragic ending of New Blood. If Dexter does end up killing Angel Batista, I think that could be what sets up his downfall. Throughout the franchise, Dexter has maintained the illusion that his victims deserved their fate, but murdering Batista would represent killing an innocent man, a beloved friend who's just seeking justice for his deceased ex-wife. This act might fundamentally break the psychological framework that allowed Dexter to rationalize his actions, potentially creating an irreparable fracture in his relationship with Harrison. The pattern from New Blood could become relevant again, where Harrison's moral awakening leads him to recognize his father as a monster who brought death to everyone around him. I think that if Harrison discovers the truth about Batista's murder, either through his own investigation or by witnessing it firsthand, it could force him to confront the reality that his father hasn't changed and never will. The emotional devastation would probably mirror his reaction to Logan's death in New Blood, but with even greater intensity given Batista's significance as a father figure from Harrison's childhood. Meanwhile, law enforcement might close in on both father and son, with Detective Wallace's investigation reaching its climax and additional authorities becoming aware of Dexter's true identity. The climatic confrontation could unfold in one of two scenarios, both possibly echoing the ending of New Blood. Either Harrison might take his father's life again, but this time with complete moral clarity rather than confusion, or Dexter could meet his end through law enforcement, during some kind of standoff where his crimes are finally exposed by Harrison. If it happens, Dexter's death would probably serve as the definitive conclusion to his story, ensuring that the cycle of violence finally ends with him, rather than continuing through Harrison. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and of course check out my Twitter and Instagram.